All right, traders, good afternoon. This is Christian Trimer at Strabeck Trade Group, and it is Tuesday, December 10th, and I have returned from a quick mini vacation. I was out from Friday to today, but I was trading um, away on my laptop yesterday. So thanks for your patience yesterday. I had good Wi-Fi up in Lake Placid. It was really beautiful up there. So nice to get some time away from the screens, which I think is always important to do. Gives you perspective to really get a couple days and get some rest and relaxation. It's very important in trading. If you've been doing this as long as I have, you know that you need breaks from time to time. It gives you, like I said, perspective. You take a step back, and you can kind of refocus what you're doing. If you're in front of the screens all the time, it's not always the best thing. More is not always the best. So let me pivot from that a little bit. Let's talk about the theme of the day. Of course, I've got the risk disclaimer up here. Everything that we're talking about is for information purposes only, not giving out any advice or recommendations. But we had this big day just to kind of just rehash what we've seen over the last week. Friday, we had a big day. We had a big rally at the end of the week. What becomes a bit tricky is when the market moves like that, right, and has momentum to it, and then all of a sudden it just kind of fizzles, where it's not moving to the downside either. It's just not moving. And that's basically what we have with the major averages. Certainly, there's some individual names that we caught in the trading room today that worked out pretty well. I'll go over those in just a second. But you could see, either the 1 day change was very slight for everything. The VIX came in slightly from yesterday. Remember, the VIX was up big yesterday. Moved all the way from like 13 to what? Let's look at this chart first, since I'm bringing it up. But the VIX moved all the way from 13 and closed right around 16 yesterday. So kind of an inside day of sorts. Keep in mind, we have a big day tomorrow. We have FOMC, which hopefully will not, there won't be anything really new coming out. I'm hoping tomorrow, as most Fed meetings I normally wish for, is that there's not much new news that they're going to be giving us to really move the markets around that much. So let me go back to that. So just an inside day for the VIX. I would expect that to be heightened until the Fed meeting tomorrow at 2 p.m. Plus, we get a press conference with every one of these meetings now. I don't know why they decided to do that, but they did. So sectors that performed well today, again, not a lot in the green, not a lot in the red. There just wasn't a lot of movement even within the sectors too. Biotech continues to be hot. The banks were also strong. You have metals and mining that also did okay today. On the flip side, solar names continue to kind of be a little bit ugly. The home builders, they didn't like what Toll had to say today. Toll tried to bounce a little bit or when the conference call was on today, but finished down 4.8%, basically right around the lows of the day. I don't know. I was listening into the comments and so forth. I thought it was pretty positive, but I think people may be looking at their guidance and so on and so forth with that, and they didn't like it. So home builders were one of the worst performers for the day. I think they did okay yesterday. They held in there okay because I am long a home builders trade right now. Fang stocks, not much to really do there. Apple was the big name, but you could see the range was very light. I'll talk about that chart in 2 seconds. I want to talk about just basically the theme of the call and the day. Chop kills. You got to be really careful with trading options when the market's not moving, right? Options. Remember what options do? They give you leverage, right? So you can exploit a move when you get a fast move in your direction. You call the direction right, and you get leverage with that, right? So you can earn a lot more money. However, that's the positive, and everybody always likes to talk about the positives, right? You don't hear too much about the negatives on Twitter. Everybody's looking at option activity and so forth, which I don't fully understand, but I get it. You get momentum, right? Sometimes from the option activity, but also if you're in options and the market doesn't move and the names don't move, you're going to have what's called decay on your hands, right? The implied volatility is going to go down. The theta decay, which is right, the meter's always running, you're going to have that. So these days are tough to kind of if you're trading options, either to switch a little bit more to stock, right? I try to mention that in the room as much as possible, is that you don't always have to be trading options, right? Options, again, they're great for when you're trying to exploit moves, right? When something is moving in your direction fast, you get leverage, right? But when something is not moving fast, then that's not always the right tool in the toolbox to be using. All right, and then also, it just kind of makes me think when I come back from a couple days, limit your trades. Right, there's so many trades that we look on a day-to-day basis. Right, Trade Alert is to the left of me, which basically rolls every option trade that's out there, and we try to look at the most aggressive trades and put that in the filter. But really, limit your trades to strong technical setups and where you have conviction to stay in the trades. In my opinion, right, if you're just following aggressive option activity, and if you're doing something other than day trading, right, a lot of people will use that to scalp, and then they're in and they're out. If you're doing that, that's fine, and if you're really good at it, then great. But if you're using it for other things, right, it can really lead you down a wrong path if you're not taking the best technical setups, right? We know that. I always come back to what we know is that 80% of hedge funds cannot or do not outperform the S&P. So be very careful about how you're selecting your trades on the tape. Again, my opinion is always that either I'm looking to be selling when I see option activity, right? I like to get in before the option activity, or if it's something that's already on my radar, that I'm looking at and it fits my thesis for a sector that I want to go into, then I may utilize it and kind of follow along with that. But I think for the most part, selling when you see option activity is really helps a lot, right, in this market. All right, and I can show you some examples. There's a good one that we talked about in the room earlier about with tech resources, right? Options traded right on the high of the day on Friday, and that's the highest the stock has been. So those examples are a dime a dozen. I want to get into the technicals, the S&P, right? So again, not giving you a sell signal, not giving you a real strong buy signal right now. It just takes a little bit of time to work its way through. And what you want to be doing, in my opinion, is just being patient and not losing money while you're waiting for a better signal. So here's where it gets interesting. When we zoom in and we go to the 1 hour chart, this is going to look very similar on the Qs side as well. So Nasdaq and S&P, 318, 3138. So we did fall into value. We kind of struggled with this top of value all day long. The other thing is, right, even with this headline that they were postponing the tariffs, which later the sources, I guess, weren't 100% accurate, or who knows. But when we did rally, we never rallied basically into value for the day. So that was kind of a signal that this was at 8:40 in the morning, and we tried again a couple times. And had a major fake out here. So again, to me, they're not sell signals. They're just giving you a sense that there wasn't any momentum to really kind of push. And I think that kind of makes sense with you look at investor psychology a little bit. With a lot of events going on this week, people just don't want to do anything until they've got more information. And again, right, price is most important, of course, but you have to realize what kind of events and what the rationale is why there's no major buying or selling that's happening. All right, so that's S&P. Again, it's going to look very close when we look at Nasdaq. Nasdaq did get into value for the day, but if we switch over to the 1 hour, it's also in value, so it needs to break here. So we are inside value, and it's a pretty decent value area. So we could explore lower levels. So I think always important to have some cash on the sidelines just in case there is some type of reaction to FOMC tomorrow, and we'll go from there. That if I just wanted to switch over to IWM. It is showing some more strength, even though it was only up 6 basis points. It's above value. And then the microcaps, which I see a few people tweeting about microcaps today. Again, I love to be early. I've been talking about the microcaps now for a couple weeks, and did get long both in options I'm out of, but I'm still in stock, and that's in the tactical portfolio with the micro cap ETF. That's IWC. And if you've heard me talk in this, if you listened to my videos before, you've heard me talk about the micro caps, which are showing some really nice strength here. All right, so what else for the day? A couple other areas that I'm watching is commodities, right? Palladium continues to break out really strong. Coffee's been doing something different. Whoops, that's the wrong ETF. That's Coca-Cola. That's the coffee ETF, which I've put this chart out a couple times. So there isn't really great ETFs for commodities. DBC is a lot of gold and oil. It has a few other commodities in there, but it's actually not looking bad. The commodities ETF. So, I'm keeping an eye on this. And also, we've talked about metals and mining, XME, which is now decently above the 200-day moving average. FCX does not look bad either. I'm still long a trade in FCX. 1350 is my ultimate target to get up to that VPOC in FCX. So I think that looks pretty interesting. All right, a couple things that saw option activity today. I traded some NVIDIA. I just like how this looks. So again, there was some weekly calls. Again, I don't know what they're doing with weekly calls other than just playing momentum, but I like that this. So first of all, NVIDIA kind of got stuffed here at the bottom of it. We rallied all the way up to the bottom of value, but we're only going to be in this for a couple more weeks, right, this year. And then we're going to start above value for 2020 unless something disastrous happens in that stock. But I like how it's above value here. And it's also above value here. This was the pop out of value. And notice you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bars all inside. So I'm looking for the next move higher here in NVIDIA. The other name that was heavily traded today in our trading room today was Tesla. Really nice trade right off the bat in this name. So really well played in the room. I am still long a bit of Tesla as well in cash. So I continue to kind of let that run as far as it wants to go. But really nice scalping job, I think, with weekly options. A few traders hit this very nice in the room today. All right, so that's a couple trades. Apple, I wanted to mention, I missed this one today. Took out that VPOC this morning, and then look at the move. So a couple of traders put this on yesterday, even though the VPOC wasn't taken out, but really nice move off the 5-minute. The trade of the day for me, which was really nice, was Sanofi, right? This was just to give you a sense of how this had to be managed a little bit. The Sanofi trade, which we saw calls last week. Now, the issue with the calls, if they're marking basically the same price as when they were bought last week. So I had to do a little bit of management with this thing. Where did the calls go out? And I added, I got a little bit lucky with the ad because I added yesterday right before the close. And if you go into my trade blotter, you could see this was right at 3:30 yesterday. I added to the January 48 calls at 50 cents. So with my average cost basis right around 80 cents, I was able to make this work and get out at my original cost basis was $1.25. So again, really tough, right? Now, if you traded this with stock, you would have done very well, right? All in all, even with this move down, I think they came into options here. 46.51. Notice the stock's all the way up to 48 bucks, and the price of the option is the same as here. So again, very tricky sometimes when you're trading options. And the other technique that I incorporate a lot is making sure that I leave enough room when I get into a position where I can add to it, because the value of the premium can move greatly, right? This moved where I got into it at $1.25. I was able to buy it at 50 cents down here. So this kind of saved my day a little bit in terms of a nice profitable day, but sometimes that's how it works, especially when you have a choppy day. All right, so I think that's it for today. Everything else, like I said, I think we're kind of in a pause mode right now, and you just kind of have to be patient and wait for that. Wait for that momentum to come back into the market and not force trades. A couple other trades that I saw on the tape. TQQQ and SPXL saw some January activity, so somebody thinking maybe the Santa rally is going to happen towards the end of the year. So someone's positioning for that. Will that be right? I don't know. ESTC, this is a name that got smoked on earnings. Interesting that somebody's buying calls now in this out in February. So for me, like I said, it's got to be something other than call activity that pushes me into a trade. I have an alert set at 63.11. Now, if there's an upgrade or something like that tomorrow and the name jumps pre-market, I may miss it, but I would rather be correct and a little bit late than early and wrong. A couple other names I mentioned NVIDIA. Also, QSR saw some really short-term calls December. All right, guys, we'll leave it there. Have a great night. See you tomorrow.